Well, hello, everybody out there in the You Are Worthy Network. It is great to be with you this Wednesday afternoon. I hope you've had a wonderful, I was going to say start to your week, but here we are almost halfway done with the week after a Thanksgiving holiday. So it's great to see you again and be with you. I am super excited to introduce you to our guest today. But I have to remind you of something before we jump in, especially, especially this time of year, because this time of year, we have a lot to be thankful for. We have a lot to be joyful for, but I'm also very conscientious of this time of year in between all the hustle and bustle and to-do list and work to be done, family to visit, traveling to be done, that I'm also aware that this could be your first Christmas coming up without a loved one that may have recently passed. And I'm always sensitive to that because the holidays can be a difficult time of year. So if that resonates with you, please know you're not alone. Please know you're cared for. And please know there's people out there that want to encourage you. And I'm one of them. And I know Terry would be one of them. So I
Absolutely.
want to remind you that you are worthy of love, respect, and success. So, with that said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Terry. Of course, it's always better to hear it from herself. That's why we're going to do the interview, right? But just to give you a little taste, I want you to meet Terry Yoffe, CPCC, PCC, a three-time certified international business and communications coach with over 20 years experience in both corporate and entrepreneur worlds. With 60 years of wisdom and life experience, Terry has faced change with resilience and persistence, continually growing and transforming into the best version of herself. As a highly successful coach, she has guided hundreds to break through limiting beliefs, embrace reinvention, and build the mindset that drives success, whether navigating corporate challenges, entrepreneur ventures, ageism, or career pivots. At 82, Terry proves it's never too late to reset your mindset, live with purpose, and create lasting impact. She is honored to partner with clients as they cut through self imposing stories, step beyond comfort zones, and discover greater self awareness, fulfillment, and success in both life and business. Terry, I love what you do. Welcome to the You Are Worthy Network.
Thank you so much, Steve. This is such an honor. I love the title, You Are Worthy. How many of us can raise our hands and say, we're not worthy, or once upon a time we weren't worthy?
Well, it's so true. And what I love to remind people of, Terry, is no matter what you've endured in life, and I say that with the most compassion possible, that you were worthy then. And whatever you're waiting for to happen now, praying about, working towards, striving towards, you don't become worthy when you achieve it. You're worthy now, even as you wait.
Absolutely. 100%.
So Terry, tell everybody what part of the world you're coming from. I know you're in the States, but not everybody watching is from the States. So tell us where you're from.
So I live in New York City. I've lived here a long time. I grew up in Queens, which is a borough of New York. And it's my home. I love it. A lot of people, oh no, I could not imagine living in the suburbs. I don't drive anymore. So I can go across the street, up the street, and do my grocery shopping. Everything I need to do is within a couple of block radius. So I feel
That,
very blessed and very lucky.
that is so cool. I have actually never been to New York City. I have been in the state of New York, and I have driven. We were on a mission to get somewhere by a certain time. I've driven around the city a couple of times, but I've never been in the city, and I would definitely like to visit at some point.
It's not for everybody. It really isn't. Most of my family lives in New Jersey or out in California. But they don't want to live here. My husband and I are the only two weirdos, kind of, but I love it. I have a balcony, which this is my backdrop. This is not me. And I can go out. I live on the 24th floor. I can get food delivered. I don't have to step foot out of my house if I don't want to.
Right.
And you can be friendly, you can be anonymous. It's not like somebody's leaning over a fence. Hi, how are you? So
Right.
it's, you know what? It's like life. Everyone's got their own way of being. Everyone's got their likes and their dislikes. And they build a nest wherever they're comfortable.
Hmm.
So
That's so true. I mean, I think it's fascinating that you're from there and it's always been home. You don't hear about that much anymore.
yes, it's been home. I grew up in Queens. I lived in Queens until my 20s, later 20s, and I moved into the city. And I feel like once I moved into the city was when I really started growing up. That I wasn't under the roof of my parents. I
Mm.
had no, you know, uh, Sherlock Holmes watching me. And I grew up. I grew up here. I went through my challenges here. And here I still am.
That's amazing. So you and I were talking a little bit about your husband before we went live. Tell us about your family. How long you been married? You have kids, grandkids?
So I was one of those people that did not follow societal norms, so to speak. I was engaged in my 20s. I was supposed to get married, and that did not work out. And I moved to the city. And somewhere along the way, I realized I was a little broken. I really needed help. And I think the moment I realized that was I was very depressed. I never felt loved. I never felt worthy. I never felt valued because I didn't see it in from my parents. Of course, as children, what we do is we put these stories together. They're not real, they're beliefs. If we see something, both my parents worked, they weren't around. So I put together, well, they're not around, they must not love me. And if they
Mm.
don't love me, I must not be worthy. And that's how the mind works. It from an early age, it puts these stories, which are not true. They're just belief systems that we see something and we don't know any better. And that's what goes into the computer called our mind. And when we grow up, we still have those stories in place. And I remember when I lived in the city, I was very unhappy. I thought the city would be magical. It would be my place of love and happiness. Didn't turn out to be that way because we carry our baggage wherever we go, right? And
Yeah.
I opened up the cutlery drawer and I saw a knife there, shiny knife. And I thought maybe this is the answer. And no, I did not do that, obviously. But the voice in me said no. So I decided to embark on analysis therapy, psychoanalysis 3 times a week for 7 years. That was probably the first time I said yes. because that's my philosophy about saying yes. So those were my beginnings.
Wow.
And I grew from there.
Well, a couple things resonated with me in that. I just had a conversation with I have three kids. One's already out of the house, and I have the two boys still in the house, 17 and almost 15. The 17-year-old's a senior. And there was something that led up to this, but I had a very open conversation with him Sunday afternoon. And it was along the lines of, you know, I don't know how many more times of intentionality that you and I are going to have. And he's not looking to move out right away at 18, but he's a senior. He's already got a job. He's got great dreams for himself. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he left a few months after 18 or 19, and um, found myself, just to be vulnerable with you, I found myself getting a little emotional in that talk with him because I started to reflect about how much I've worked. And when they were small, I used to get a lot of intentional time with them. And it's not been quite as consistent as demands have grown. I love hanging out with my kids, but and then they get interested in other things too, especially when they start driving, right? So you've just brought up that in me, like because you assumed in your mind because your parents weren't around that you weren't worthy. And we've tried very hard, and nobody's perfect at it, but we've tried very hard to pour into them and to want them to feel valued. And we talk about, we're proactive parents. We don't react. We try to be proactive in these conversations. So anyway, I say all that just because that really triggered in me a heart to heart with my son that actually ended up being a extremely fruitful conversation
Mm.
with me being vulnerable and him expressing the love and respect back to me. It went a long way. But something you said, Terry, when you were talking about I think you said psychoanalysis, you said that's the first time you said yes. Is that mean yes to yourself?
Um, I just realized I kind of went off track a little bit. Um, so what I was, I'll backtrack for a second. I got married at 40. So, um, societal norms back then where you got married in your 20s, you had 2.3 kids and you did
Yeah.
this. That was what it was, but I never followed it. So, I got married in 40 and my husband had three kids. So I did not have any of my own. But I've been married 42 years. So talk about yes. What happens, I think, with people is, so for instance, I got my first real sales job in 1983, where a woman I knew it was a fashion magazine, newspaper, reached out to me. I was in the fashion world and said, I'd love you to come work for me. You would have a territory. And I said, selling? She said, yes. I said, I don't have any sales experience. She said, yeah, that's okay. The old voice would have said no, because
Mm,
what would have happened was the voice would have said, are you crazy? You'll fail. Oh my God, you can't do that, because that's what happens. It's that the mind is there to protect. It doesn't know you've grown
mhm.
up. And I know that tape would have gone on. Instead, I said, okay, sure, why not? So that was my yes. I spent 3 years. I was highly successful. And from there, I went on to a big magazine company to spend 11 years in sales. But who knew? If I did say yes, the trajectory of my life would have been very, very different. So that's what I mean by I started coaching at 60.
Hold that thought. I definitely want
Ah!
to get there. I love that, Terry. I love that you said yes. And because I know we're going to get into a little bit of this dialogue here in a second. So I was recently, and I'm talking about like in the last 2 weeks, invited into an event that it's where I need to go for my development. It's the next room I need to be in. And I was humbled but terrified at the same time. And the old Steve, because you alluded to the old Terry, the old Steve would have actually hesitated to the point of letting registration filled up and then saying it's booked. I would have made excuses like that. I would have sabotaged myself like that. And I prayed about it. I got advice about it, overanalyzed it like I do everything. And I finally decided that I'm going. And once I made that decision, it's been so peaceful. It's been so resolved in my heart. And it turns out I'm now going to know three people in the room. That was one of the things I was terrified of, is not knowing a soul in there. And they're all at this level. And I don't,
Right.
all the limited thinking. But when we say yes, there's power in that and there's blessings in that.
Absolutely. Because you can hear the other voice saying, no, 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 no. Um, and I said, yes. Who knew I would be so successful at it? Who knew I would go
Oh,
on to have this amazing 11-year after that company career where I was the travel manager in advertising. I got to travel the world. I got to do
man.
amazing things, fly in private planes, fly the Concorde, have huge expense accounts, do everything. And and I said no. I wouldn't be the person I am today. And I wouldn't have decided to start my own business when I left the corporate world. My husband had been saying, go to your own business, do your own thing. I said, no, no, no. Who wants to give up the golden handcuffs, insurance, bonuses, everything? But I said, I'm leaving. And I did that next and kind of got in my rowboat, as I call it, and left that shore to become successful as my first entrepreneur.
Yeah, Terry, I've got a vision. There's a book that we could co-write together called "What's on the Other Side of Your Yes."
Hmm. There you go. What's on the so much? So I get very passionate. So much is when you're willing to come out of your comfort zone, and it doesn't matter. Say yes. So I've decided at 60 to start to become a coach. And that's not societal norm. But what happened was my business, the landscape changed. It wasn't the business. And I had to decide what to do. I had no idea. But because I went to analysis, I thought I'd go back to school and become a therapist because it was my passion working with the human mind. And that didn't work.
Hmm.
I found coaching at 60. I got programmed. I went into it. I got my certificate. And that wasn't enough for me. I went on to a 6-month certification program at 61, 62 to get my certification and then go on to get another 2 or 3 certifications. So I said yes. I said
So
yes
you,
to podcasting at 78.
You say yes a lot, and I like that. And I'm sure when you were starting off coaching, you certainly weren't doing it to inspire other people at 60. You were doing it for survival at that point, right?
No,
No.
no. Survival for me?
Well, not survival, that's probably not a good word, but that's what you were gonna transition into for a career.
Oh, correct. I started in the basement. I had been up here and I had to start in the basement. And then who am I going to find? Who are going to be clients? Nobody knew me as a coach. They knew me in sales. So I joined the International Coach Federation New York chapter and worked my way up to president and had great. It was great. And I've been coaching 22 years now.
I love it. I love it. So give us a little glimpse. We read a little bit in your bio, but what is the ideal client you love working with and why?
You know, that it's interesting because that's changed over the years.
Hmm.
You know, if you're a coach for 22 years and you change and you grow and you transform, you can't be coaching the way you did 22 years ago,
Right.
for sure. So today, even though I still am a business and communications coach, I'm really a reinvention coach and mastery of life coach. My passion is helping people understand the difference between what the mind sets up and who they are. And mastering life is shifting the mindset because the mind is the master and we're the dog. That's the way we're programmed. As to start to where we become the master of our life and we do what we want to do, what we're here for, rather than listening to that says no, that keeps us small. And that becomes the dog. I know it sounds convoluted and complicated for a lot of people, but people look to make changes out there, not in here. And change only happens. It's an inside job.
Hmm. And the mind is so tricky. That saying yes that we've talked about is pushing through what I call the border bullies. Our mind has tricked us into a certain comfort zone.
Excellent.
And
Absolutely.
it's pushing beyond that bully. What I've learned that you've probably known for a long time is you can't do mindset alone. I mean, there's some things you can do,
Right.
but to really go to the next level you really want to go to with your goals, you're going to need a or a coach to help you with that. Do you agree?
Yes, because that's what I work with. Somebody can't do it alone. They have to start to understand that, look, the mind is a saboteur, it's a gremlin, it's the ego, but it also is powerful if presented with the right information, not the old belief systems like I believed I wasn't worthy. Well, the mind doesn't know you've grown up. So it keeps you safe
Yeah.
and you say no, but you don't understand. It just is autopilot. So that's
That's
where
so true.
I've
So
come
true.
in my life.
So give us a little example of someone that you've coached, uh, a result that they got, maybe evaluating where they were when they first began to see you, where their mind was, and then the maturization into the results they got So it's a two-part question. Tell us a
I
little
hear.
bit about the results of somebody that you worked with, and how did they feel and how did you feel when they had a breakthrough?
I'm still working with somebody. It's taken them time. And what they started to see was, again, the negative voice. So they would go this far and then they wouldn't go any further because the voice said, if you do that, you're going to fail. Remember, you'll be a failure. It's not going to work out. So they stop themselves from going any further. And they, even though it looks like they're doing a lot, they're still doing it in a comfort zone. Getting out of a comfort zone would mean they had to really start getting out of that comfort zone and doing something really different. Like he had his own business and he does landscaping, and he he did a lot in his own house, but didn't step out to go look for a position where he would be qualified. So now he's starting to see and listen to that voice. See, that's the key. When somebody can start to listen, and I had another client and say, "Oh, that voice said that. I didn't listen to it." So the minute you stop listening and doing what you want to do, what your purpose, your passion is, it starts to slowly lose its hold and its grip.
But even that's training, right? Like go back to the example I gave you when I first, and it does take some discernment for sure. And I think it takes a coach or
Oh, sure.
people a little further along with mindset practice than you are. Like the first reaction I had with the invitation was that this is a really good opportunity. But it was after I sat with it that the border
Exactly.
bullies start to kick in.
Exactly. And if you would have listened, you wouldn't have gone.
That's right. I still haven't gone, by the way. It's next
Well,
week. So, but
but you signed up.
yes, I'm going.
Okay.
Yes.
And you'll go.
Yes.
So,
But sometimes our yeses, to go back to your client for a minute, sometimes our yeses, depending where our mindset is, it's going to take some baby steps, some baby yeses, right? Some you got to get some wins.
right now, am I suggesting if something isn't right, you say no? No, right? I don't want to give somebody the wrong impression that, oh,
No,
she says yes to everything. That's not
no.
true. If you want something and you know in your heart, this is right for me, and then that negative stuff comes up, that's when, you know, you say yes. If somebody's going to ask you to jump off a bridge, you're not going to say yes.
Right.
Right. So, and you have to be discerning.
Hmm.
But if your gut is telling you, this is where I want to go, but that voice is failure, you're not going to make it, not going to work, because what it's doing is protecting you, because that's what it knows. And in analysis, when I started to deconstruct my beliefs, I saw it's not that my parents didn't love me or I wasn't worthy or valuable. They weren't home. They couldn't give me the attention I needed. Had nothing to do with their loving me.
I love that reframing too, because they loved you so much and you were worthy so much that they had to go make a living to put food on the table and to keep the roof over your head, right? I mean, it's another way of looking at it.
Right. Right. They cared.
Hmm.
And I mean, my mother was caring, but she was overbearing. So in a way, it was good she went to work. She wasn't there. We had housekeepers take care of us because we were not latchkey kids. Back in that day, I don't know what, most mothers didn't work back then. They stayed home, they tended the nest while the fathers worked. So my mother was an anomaly. So
Mm,
that also made me vulnerable in that I was the kid whose parents worked and could go out and play. I remember going to a friend across the street and saying, "Can so and so come out and play?" And the mother said, "No, she's not like you, who has people cleaning for her. She has to stay home." So you can imagine what a young person hearing that would feel like.
well, so tell us a little bit about you mentioned it few moments ago about in 78 you started a
I
podcast.
did.
Tell us about the podcast and is it still active?
Yes. So, and at 82, I went to speaker school to become a speaker, which I'm doing.
Wow.
So I started a podcast. I thought, oh, this be a great idea? Somebody came into my life. It was meant to be. And she helped me put my podcast together. I didn't know much about it. And I started it in 2022. So I just finishing my 4th year. My podcast in the top 1.5% globally as per Listen Notes. I did not even know that existed. I had no idea. And I said right off the bat, if it doesn't work, I'm okay. It doesn't define me. I did it twice a month. And I'm doing next year, but I'm changing my commitment. It was a lot of work. I have 93 episodes. I'm going to 100. So I'll do 2 in January, 2 in February, 2 in March. And I'll start April with 1 a month. That will be 100. And I will do 1 a month. And I will do an encore episode for the second episode that month. I'll do my own one and I'll throw up an encore, the second one. And that's where I'll be for 5th year. And I don't know, I may decide after that podcasting is great. I have learned a lot. I have met incredible people.
Mhm.
I have grown. And it may be time to end it at that point. So, and I'm okay because I went to speaker school. Again, I'm always the oldest person in the room, always, always. And that's okay. I went to speaker school in May, and I've had 2 virtual speaking engagements. And my goal for next year is to really speak and inspire others that you're never too late or you're never too old to follow your dreams and to do what you want. I'm still following my dreams. I still know what I want. And so many people leave their dreams on the cutting room floor because societal norms say, up 65 years old, 66, 70, time to call it a day, time to go play pickleball. Nothing wrong with that, or go do whatever. And anyone that loves doing that should do that. But there are people that would like to do other things, but they're told, like I was told at 60, what are you going to go become a coach? Why? You could retire, and I could. Or starting a podcast. Oh, there are so many podcasts out there. Why are you even doing it? Don't be crazy. Speaking at 82, 83 years old, nobody's going to want you on a stage. I mean, that's what you get. So I don't listen, obviously.
Yeah, I absolutely love that about your character. I have a talk that I do from stage that just to make myself relatable to the audience, I list kind of in bullet point style, just so we can get through it quick and make it about them again, all the things that I've done after 40 years old. And I mean, that's only been 16 years, but the majority of my accomplishments, first of all, give glory to God for it. That's happened in the last 16 years, not the first 40. So I'm wired a lot like you. I became a coach at 55, and you give me inspiration because I'm speaking a lot virtually now, but I want to speak more eventually, especially when the kids are all out of the house. More, and I'll be, when the kids are all out of the house, I'll be 60, 61. I want to be on more stages at that point. So you're a great inspiration to myself and all of those that are wired like us. Like you said, there's nothing wrong with playing pickleball or whatever
Mhm.
hobby or whatever you want to do in life. We're all wired different. But for those of us that still want to accomplish things, whatever it may be, I just find you a great inspiration, and I'm really really grateful for your example.
Thank you. I've been, that encourages me because I don't go looking for it, but so many people tell me, hey, why don't you retire? I mean, I can. My husband's retired. Why don't you retire and have a great life and travel? And I say, because I want to give back. I really do. I've been so blessed that I'm still here and I still have most of my marbles and I can talk and speak and I want to pay back, even with clients. I bring 60 years of wisdom and life and business and knowledge experiences. So I meet my clients exactly where they are because I know what it's like to be stuck. I know what it's like to have trauma. So,
I like that you said most of my marbles. I think if we're all being honest, I don't know if all of us have ever had all our marbles, but
well, but,
that
you know,
it's good. So, do, besides speaking more, do you know what's next?
um, coaching, my podcast for this coming year, speaking, and who knows what the universe is going to provide, what path the universe will open up for me. Who knew? Who knew years ago when I was selling that I'd be a coach? I mean, I've always been in the public eye, always, for years and years and years. Um, Podcasting, coaching. I won awards. Who would have thought that young girl in Queens who never felt worthy or loved would have ever dreamed of who I am today? However, I always had a vision of who I wanted to be. We all think about who would we like to be? And this vision kept being there. And I kept doing what I needed to do, go through therapy. You don't make changes if you wave a magic wand or if you say, gee, I want to make changes, make it happen. You got to do the work.
I do the
And
work.
it's not that people are lazy, they just want everything to be there. You know, they want everything, but they're not willing. They want the easy, they don't want the hard path. I had the very hard path, the very. very hard path. People don't spend 7 years in analysis anymore, for
Mm.
sure. They don't. But I wouldn't have had it any other way because I got to rewrite my story.
And I think you appreciate it more. And that's probably why you're still going, because you're grateful and you love what you're doing and you love giving back. And I,
I
I
do.
love that about you. We'll put your links in the description, but I always like our guests to tell us where people can find them and learn more about them.
Oh gosh. Well, my website is almost redone. It's been, the old one is coming down, so by the end of December, it will be up. It's www.trycoaching.com. Even though it's old, it gives you a lot of information. Or they can see me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on,
Yeah.
my podcasts are now up on YouTube. So there's not the audio, there's the video. And you can always reach me at terry@trycoaching.com.
Well, she's everywhere.
Ah,
She's 82.
three, actually.
You're 83 now.
I had a birthday.
Wow.
Luckily.
You look and sound marvelous, by the way.
Thank you.
Um, I love, love your example. I want to give you a chance to close us out with anybody watching this that feels a little stuck, that maybe hasn't said out loud they give up on their dreams, but maybe their actions or inaction is showing that they're fatigued. They don't have much left. What words of encouragement would you send them today?
I understand that. And I think if you're looking out there, you're not going to find what you're looking for. You have to turn your eyes inward and look at, what do you really want? Where's your passion? But what's getting in the way? Where are you stuck? What's holding you back? And it's usually fear. Usually fear, not good enough, not valuable, the usual suspects. So if you could start to turn your eyes inward, and if you can do it, take a hard look and know that you are worthy, you are valuable. Look in the mirror and tell yourself that, and keep looking inside. Or alternatively, you can hire a coach who can really help you move through that and become successful.
Words of wisdom right there. And oftentimes, Terry, it's both, right? It's looking inward and getting a coach. So I just, I want to, before we sign off, I want to thank you for sharing your experiences with us, your wisdom, but your authenticity. You are as authentic as they come, and I appreciate your authenticity, your warmth, and your wisdom. And thank you for sharing that with us today, Terry.
Thank you so much, Steve. It was really an honor to be here. I appreciate you very much.
You're very welcome. Guys, your story's not over yet. Even if you're in that stuck place that Terry talked about, there's still air in those lungs. And if there's air in those lungs, there's a reason. Don't give up on yourself. Like Terry said, look in the mirror. Tell yourself that you're worth. Tell yourself that you are dearly loved, because it's true. Don't give up. It's not too late. I
Don't give
appreciate
up.
each
I
one.
didn't.
Never give up. Never. All right, guys, I appreciate you. God bless. We'll be talking to you real soon.